Can you believe it? The time is actually here. We are days away from seeing one of the craziest matchups ever in the history of boxing. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. And I said Mike Tyson, Jake Paul for a reason, because did anybody else out there notice that on all the posters, all the advertisements, it was Jake Paul, Mike Tyson? Can somebody tell me what that's all about? But saying that, on that note, Mike Tyson never was really the type to care, was he? I mean, we're talking about a gladiator who used to come out with only a towel, no robe, no ring walk, no music, just used to come out, no socks, wearing his shoes, shorts, maybe a towel over his head, boom, do the business, in there and out, in there like swimwear and straight out. Then we've got the likes of the modern generation, like Jake Paul and Devin Haney, who's all about the contracts and stuff and suing and details and I want to be first and you be second, I want to wear this, you know. It's like the whole Mariah Carey act, isn't it? So yeah, it's like the older generation versus the new generation. As for the people who are like, oh, well, we seen Mike Tyson's open workout for Jake Paul and he wasn't very accurate and his combinations weren't very good and he couldn't throw punches that good anymore and he was standing too close. I mean, I would like to see somebody else, especially pushing 60 years old, let alone a heavyweight, let alone all those years off, even without the years off, throw punches in bunches with combinations that vicious, with that much power, with that much weight. I would love to see them do the same thing, regardless of age. Even in their prime years, even if they were a fighter, I'd love to see them do the same thing. But I like how they get on Mike Tyson. They're like, oh, yeah, he's not very good now. I mean, look at that, he's standing too close. I mean, Mike Tyson is the last great product of Constantine D'Amato, Cus D'Amato. You think he doesn't know the peekaboo style better than others? I'm sure he does. And not only that, Mike Tyson is probably his biggest, worst critic. He knows, he ain't silly. He always said in past interviews that the worst part about fighting was the risk of humiliation under the bright lights as everybody's watching. And especially now, he's got a big family. You know, he's even bigger now. He's probably what? The most famous man on the planet, other than, what, Donald Trump? So he ain't silly. He's not going to risk his life, his legacy, his ego, his pride, everything, if he knew something was off. We're talking about a boxing historian here, somebody who literally studies fights, watches back, reels after reels after reels, even his own fights. So he ain't silly. You think he's not watching Jake Paul, seeing what Jake Paul's doing? I think Mike Tyson, because he is a very wise man, if anybody's ever seen his old original hot boxing podcasts on YouTube, he's a very, very wise, smart, knowledgeable man. He doesn't get enough credit for that. And I don't know why that is, to be honest. I don't know if it's because of the lisp. I don't know what it is. I don't honestly know. But he deserves much more credit. I mean, you name somebody else wiser than Mike Tyson around today. We're talking like celebrity status. You name one person. Like what? Jordan Peterson? He's more of a psychologist. It's not so much wisdom with him. You know, it's more about books and knowledge and textbooks. But Mike Tyson, he's lived it, he's been there, he's done it, he's streetwise too. He's got the t-shirt. In fact, he's got a box of them. He's got boxes of them in the back. So he knows what he's doing. As for people saying, oh yeah, but you know, they've seen Mike Tyson in the press conference for Jake Paul, and you know, he just looked completely punch drunk. His awareness, his reaction timing, his speech, everything was just off. You know, he's punch drunk. We are literally talking about a man who smoked like 2 joints before he went out and fought Roy Jones Jr. 2 years ago. This man smokes more than a steam train, and he eats more mushrooms than a squirrel. And you think that he ain't going to be high? Like, if there's one man who can smoke a joint and go out there and smash somebody to shreds, then it's this man, Iron Mike, innit? He ain't like the rest of us. As he would say himself in his own words back in his heyday, he's cut from a different cloth. Mike Tyson always said himself that the worst thing about fighting was actually the humiliation risk involved. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the early footage of Mike Tyson when he was in the amateurs with Teddy Atlas and he was terrified and he was going to run home. He was going to catch a train and go home because he was so scared. He had his boxing robe on and everything. He was about to go out and he was so scared. And he said it was the humiliation because he's just so scared of the humiliation. So on that note, knowing how big Mike Tyson is today, knowing he's like one of the biggest, possibly, in fact, he probably is the most famous man other than Donald Trump on the planet right now. You really think he's going to risk his legacy? He wants to be humiliated in front of his family? You think he wants to humiliate his family too? On the world stage, under the bright lights, when he's a certified living legend? Nah, I'm not buying that. Not buying that at all. I think personally, he's doing what the great Jack Johnson one did. I think he's playing possum. I think he's deliberately not going all out, not showing his best, maybe even just being a little bit sloppy for the open workout because that's psychology. This guy literally got trained by Cus D'Amato, mental training too, and Cus D'Amato, for those who do not know, he was basically like a psychological strategist. We're talking about a man who literally used to talk about the art of war to Mike Tyson every single night before he went to sleep, as he was falling asleep every single night. This guy knows what he's doing. Trust me, this guy knows what he's doing. And he's no Anderson Silva. He's no MMA fighter who just put the gloves on, got inside the boxing ring. Now, come on. Despite all the talent that MMA fighters have, or in the UFC for that matter, like you can't do it in boxing. It's a different sport altogether. It's a total different sport. That's like taking a shark from the ocean and dropping the shark, a great white, in the middle of a lion's den. It's going to get mauled. Or even vice versa. You take a lion from the den and drop it in the middle of the ocean as sharks are surrounding it. It's going to get shredded to pieces. So it's like two different sports. So yes, Jake Paul's knockouts were unbelievable. Even his wins were very, very good. Like, that just proves that he is a professional fighter. He already is a professional fighter. For those who do not know, despite Jake Paul being a trash talker, a true entertainer, and he is that, I think he puts all these young fighters to shame. And I think that's why he's good for the likes of boxing and stuff, because boxing needs more energy. It needs more unpredictability. It needs more entertainment, not just inside the ring, but outside of the ring too. So I think he's very, very good for boxing. And he can actually back it up too. And this guy trains like a professional. He actually trains all day, every day, just like a professional fighter does. So for people not giving him the respect he's due, I think that's down to how he handles himself outside of the ring. I think people really don't want to give him that respect because the way he acts, the way he talks, his ego and stuff. It's either that or people don't like the fact that they feel like they could once relate to this kid who got lucky on the Disney Channel and now he's reaching heights that nobody would even dare imagine going to. So, you know, a lot of envy is also in with that too, because a lot of people don't like to see people who started off on the same kind of level that they started off at and proceed to such heights, like headlining fights with Mike Tyson. People don't like it, and the reason people don't like it is because it makes them feel like more of a failure. It makes them feel like they're not doing much with their lives. So I think a lot of the envy also comes from one of the two things I've just mentioned. But yeah, one thing's for sure, Jake Paul's got power, and you can't go swimming and not get wet. Mike Tyson is going to get punched. He's going to get punched. Unless he does one of those early moves where he just comes out from the bell and just goes boom like a steam train straight through him, which I highly doubt, unless he can somehow reverse the clock back to like when he was 19 years old. But there's no way. There's no way. Like, for people even saying that, they're just living in cuckoo land. How can you do that? We're only human. We're only human. It's not even possible. You know, it's not possible. We're only human. We do not beat Father Time. I mean, just look at the great Muhammad Ali. We're talking about a man who should have been called the Magic Man because that man was so unbelievable. He was like I can't even explain it. There's literally no words for that man. He was like, do you know when they say the man, the myth, the legend? He was like that, and Superman, and more again. He was just the whole package, wasn't he? And even he couldn't beat for that time, despite being the man who shook up the world multiple times. Every time they wrote him off, they said he's going to get killed, he's going to get destroyed, he couldn't do it. He always proved everybody wrong. And we're not talking about just like, oh, like the 90s era or something. We're talking about the golden era of heavyweight boxing with Hall of Famers. Everybody was Hall of Famers, not just like 3 or 4. We're talking Hall of Famers, a long list. You know, we're talking the 60s, we're talking the 70s. Like, he was through like 2 golden eras. He caught both of them, so, and he came out on top. And even he couldn't beat for that time because, again, we are only human. So, on that note, what is my prediction? I predict you can only judge a man by his last fight. And thankfully, we've got something to go by. This is what a lot of people also forget. People are like, oh, he hasn't boxed for 25 years. No. What they're forgetting is, first of all, he's sparring all the time. Second thing of all is, he did box. He boxed 2 years ago against Roy Jones Jr. And if anybody's seen that fight, Roy Jones Jr. is like, what, 45? And he was a regular fighter. He was fighting regularly, unlike Tyson. Up until that fight, Mike Tyson never fought in about 25 years or something. But Roy Jones Jr. was having lots of fights still. We're talking pro fights as well. And Mike Tyson smashed him to pieces. I think he even carried Roy Jones Jr. for the fight. And I respect Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. in my eyes is probably the greatest pound-for-pound fighter that ever lived. But I believe Mike Tyson carried him in that fight because he didn't go to the head much at all. He just went to the body. And he knew his body would be conditioned. He knows how experienced Roy Jones Jr. is. And I just feel like he was carrying him. I just feel like he was holding a lot back for that fight. And I think the reason he was doing that is because Mike Tyson wanted rounds in. Again, Mike Tyson is no idiot, especially when it comes to fighting. He is a very smart, wise man. He knows what he's doing. So my prediction, I think Mike Tyson is going to win either one of 2 ways. I think he's going to win by stopping Jake Paul with body shots or even making him quit in the corner. Or he's going to literally destroy and break his ribs, and on the final bell, he might have scored a couple of knockdowns and he will win on points. That's what I believe. But as for Jake Paul playing with Mike Tyson like a kitten playing with a ball of string, nah, that's not happening. No way. If it was somebody like Lennox Lewis, it was a big, tall, rangy fighter with a big, long jab who had the boxing IQ of a Lennox Lewis, for example, then yeah, I get it, yeah. But we're talking Jake Paul. And again, Jake Paul is a legit pro fighter, so I think when Mike Tyson does win this fight, I think Mike Tyson deserves all the credit he's due because Jake Paul is a legit pro. He is. But on that note, he also should step up now because people are just tired of all these games, you know, like all these circus performances. Like, next he'll be fighting swimmers and golf players. It's just ridiculous. It's getting out of hand, isn't it? I mean, he fought one time against Tommy Fury, and Tommy Fury was actually shocking. He was beyond shocking. He was dreadful. He was really dreadful. Tommy Fury did not even look like a boxer. In fact, Tommy Fury looked so bad, he actually made Jake Paul look like the boxer. He had no boxing skill. He had no discipline in the ring. He had no composure, Tommy Fury. He was just like, it was crazy. Honestly, like, that was shocking, that. And he still beat Jake Paul. So the one time he does step up and actually fights a pro who lost his head, lost his cool, had no composure, had no discipline inside the ring, let his emotions take over for him, he lost. So, yeah, he's not beating Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's winning. I think it's going to be one of the 2 ways that I mentioned. So, what are your thoughts? What is your predictions? Let me know down below in the comments. Do you think Jake Paul is going to shock the world and knock out a 60-year-old grey-haired, ring-rusty, washed-up, old has-been, living legend of a man? Or do you think the old legend has one more fight in him and he's going to shock the young generation and show what all the greats were about? Let me know your prediction down below in the comments. Who do you think is going to win? Leave the name, let me know. Or why not have a little bit risky business and give me a detailed prediction? How is the fight going to unfold? Thanks for watching. Oh, by the way, did I tell you I once met Mike Tyson? True story.